Real stories.
Real stories.
From real midwives. This is Head on View.
Day in the life. She said what? These are our stories.
Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of Head on View. I'm Carly and
I'm Laura.
So today, as it's our first episode, we really thought we would introduce ourselves, say hi, tell you a little bit about us and what our podcast is going to be about. Now, normally we would have our number 3 here, Judy, but as anyone who is a shift worker knows, it's pretty hard to get everyone together
The same day. As you know, my name's Laura. I'm a registered midwife, straight midwifery, no nursing involved. Yes, you can do that as a degree. I'm also now a certified lactation consultant. I sort of came into midwifery late in life, probably in my 40s.
Sure.
But I've done lots of medical careers in my life. And after my second baby, I decided, maybe I can be a midwife. This seems like a good career change. And I went and did it with 2 young children. I did a full-time 3-year course with 2 young children. I nearly killed myself doing it, but it was great fun. I then decided this year to do my lactation consultancy exam after a couple of years of studying for it. And I got my results 2 days ago, and I'm very excited about that.
Why did you choose midwifery?
I sort of had like a really shit birth with my first kid, and I had one of those like obstructed labors, emergency Caesars.
We will expand on that.
We'll expand on that later.
Later episode. Real life birth story.
Yeah. And just, I had postnatal depression. And then when it came to me having my second, I really had to become quite an advocate for myself. And I found really quickly in the piece that no one really wanted to advocate for me. And I had to go and find a private midwife. And throughout my whole journey with my private midwife, I always thought, it's a really interesting job, but this would be a terrible job. This would not be rewarding at all. And then once I had her, my second child, I was sort of sitting on the couch one day, I reckon she was about 6 months old. And I was like, I think I want to be a midwife. And my husband, now ex-husband, that can be a whole nother podcast, was like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm be a midwife. So I applied and did it. And I think my main reason for getting into midwifery is because I want women to have support and advocacy and knowledge and education. I was horrified in my first class when people were so excited about delivering or catching babies. I was like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I still don't want to do that. But yeah, I got it in it mainly to help women and obviously help women with choices and breastfeeding and parenting as well. That's what sort of led me into lactation consultancy. Breastfeeding is something I'm very interested in and loved with my children. Not everyone loves it, but I think I'm pretty damn good at teaching women how to breastfeed. Next, Carly, you're up.
So, like Laura, I also came to midwifery later in life. I am English and was brought up in England and studied arts over there, in particularly acting. My family is quite medical, so my mum's a nurse, my sister's some sort of scientist, my dad worked in a hospital, no interest at all in medical stuff. Like when I told my family, they were just like, I don't know, they were very shocked. They were like, what? Are you sure, Carly? And they were just like, no, that's
no
crazy.
idea your family was medical.
Oh, I didn't want to go. Yeah. Anyway, ended up in Australia, blah, blah, blah. And, like all these arts graduates who can't really get real jobs.
I was listening to real degree.
Yeah. So I was actually working for I'm trying to think, a news station. I don't want to obviously divulge the name. A news station. And I actually didn't mind the job, but it got to the point where all my friends had left and I kind of hated most of the people there. So that also makes you sort of hate your job. And I knew I wanted to travel more and I was like, how can I find a job where I can travel and do stuff, and I loved animals. And this is a very long-winded story and very bizarre way how I came to this. So
I don't even know.
it's because it's really weird, and people like when they hear it, they're like, "What?" It's so weird. So I was watching this documentary about orangutan sanctuary, and the doctor, the head doctor, like at the orangutan sanctuary, was a human doctor. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Because I looked at doing like vet nursing and stuff. And if you want to get paid like $2 an hour and basically you can't really take your crew anywhere, then go for it. But I, however, like to spend more money than that. So
True.
needed something else. So then I was like, okay, cool. Maybe I could do some sort of medical thing and then I can volunteer at the orangutan sanctuary. What can I do? And I was like, oh, I like babies. I can be a baby. And then I was through my Googling, I was looking and I was like, oh, so it looks like you have to, do like a postgrad to get into neonatal nursing. And, from hearing stories of my mum nursing, I knew I had zero interest in doing nursing. So I was like, well, why don't I do this double degree with midwifery and nursing? Like, surely I can be a midwife for a year. Like, that can't be too bad. And then I can do neonatal nursing. To be honest, didn't really have much, knowledge about what a midwife does or anything. And I sort of, I've ages, and I was working at one of my crappy jobs, which was actually driving the Christmas train. And and one of the girls working there was a nurse. So you advertise. So one of the girls working there was a nurse, and she loved it. And she was like, oh my God, yeah, do it. I love it. It's so great. You'll love it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then obviously because I was so old and hadn't studied for a gazillion years, I had to go and take this weird like stat. I can't even remember what it's called. I think it was called a stat test or something. And then I got like, not to boast, but like 98%. And I was like, oh my God, I'm actually smart. Like I'm not stupid. So I got in and I did the double degree, registered nurse, registered midwife. I'm also now a nurse immunizer as well. And I initially thought I would have nothing to do with nursing, but I actually do a lot more probably nursing jobs now than midwifery. Yeah. So I'm one of those people who I hate going to the same job every day. Like when I was working like a 9-to-5 job in an office, I think I was borderline alcoholic. Like would drink a bottle of wine every night because I was just like, oh my God, this is so boring.
No, we drink because our jobs are so stressful.
Yes. And even the thought of if I had to go to like a hospital every day for 40 hours a week, I just can't do it. So I currently do a few different things. So as long as, the midwifery I do, I work at a few private hospitals doing agency work. This is where I reel off my gazillion jobs that I have. Get ready.
I'm waiting.
So going back to my arts background, I also do set nursing. So that means I'm the nurse on the set for like movies, films, video shoots, etc. I tutor at the university, and the same university I also mark exams. That's for nursing and midwifery students. With my immunisation, so I do like flu vax. So I'm that girl who goes into the office and you all line up and I inject you. And with COVID, I have picked up a few new roles that never previously existed. So a few frontline COVID stuff, which I'm not sure how much I'm really meant to talk about. So not sure, probably won't. But yes, did a few stuff there. So I guess this is kind of highlighting that it can be very varied. Like just because you're a nurse or a midwife, it doesn't mean you have to just work in a hospital. There's so many options out there. And I think for the girls who are sort of and ahhing about doing straight midwifery or double, I know I was really like, I've got no interest in doing nursing.
I think nursing opens
so it opens a lot of doors, like a lot of options. So I'm 100% glad I did nursing now because although I never want to, work on a general ward in a hospital, I can do a lot of jobs that I couldn't do if I wasn't a nurse. And I do actually still work in a special care nursery as well, which originally started me on this journey to be a baby nurse.
I couldn't think of anything worse than when I looked at the double degree.
Yeah.
Because I'm a woman of 3 degrees, like I have a degree in scientific photography.
Yeah.
I have a degree in prosthetics and orthotics.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, and they're all sort of useful at the time, but not useful in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, do the double degree. And then I read about what nurses do, and I was like, ew,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
I felt like that for most of my placements. And I remember when I did my nursing rotation in my grad year, I think I cried every day. And I literally did. And I had a 16-week rotation. It was like the worst 16 weeks of my life. So all those grads out there are crying every day. Like
That's totally normal.
It's fine.
And I think with nursing, I think if you're younger, and even if you are older, like if you want someone that wants more choice, I'm a little bit different to Carly in the fact that I work just at a hospital and I do rotations through the postnatal ward and antenatal clinic, home visiting, and then soon to be LC work as well. But I'm happy being at the one hospital.
Yeah.
But I have recently got some casual work at a private hospital because I'd like to see how the other half live.
I love it. They get good snacks.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the snacks. I've heard that. And you know, one thing I forgot to mention is that I'm not Australian either.
Yes, so he is American. Laura is American. And you're going to, as if you can't tell. I can tell by her accent. I'm so bad at accents. So
You never thought I was American.
No, and when she said I'm American, I was like, what are you? Oh, okay. So, and our Australian obviously is missing, but she will be here, fingers crossed, next episode.
Yes.
So I guess let's talk about this podcast. So this podcast was originally Laura's idea over lockdown. She was kind of like, just going crazy.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something. And
I needed human contact.
Yeah. And like, how many podcasts have you listened to where people just talk shit? And I'm like, if they can just get on and talk shit, like surely we can get on and talk shit.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Yeah.
And I was craving just, you know, like when we go out and we go places, like we go to the pub or we go, like we just chat and carry on and, you know, laugh a lot. And so I swear a lot.
I mean, we think we're funny. Probably no one else does think we're funny, but
I don't fucking care what they think. What do you think we're funny?
Yeah.
And then finally, we sort of got our shit together and thought, let's really do this. Because I've listened to a few podcasts recently and I'm like, they are just talking.
Just talking. Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes it's nice just to listen to people
babble in the background.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, when you're a kid and you used to go to sleepovers and there'd be like 10 girls, like all sleeping on the floor in the lounge room. And you'll be drifting off and everyone would just be talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like I do that a lot as well. Like if I'm having trouble sleeping, especially if I've worked nights and I wake up, you know, and I feel like I've been asleep for hours and I wake up and it's 11 a.m. and I'm like, oh, I've been asleep for 2 hours. Great.
So depressing.
Yeah. And then I can't get back to sleep. Like I will put a podcast on and just like that's someone talking. It's like having a bedtime story.
Yeah.
It just helps me fall asleep. Yeah. Which makes them sound boring or something. But
but I think also we'll probably aim to maybe talk about some issues in midwifery and nursing, not just for registered nurses and midwives, but for students. Midwifery,
so I think we don't want to put this podcast in a box. We are pretty much open to talking about anything and everything related to nursing and midwifery. Oh, so that's my dishwasher in the background. We are sitting in my kitchen thinking one. Yeah, so nursing, midwifery, and anything even loosely related to that. Our lives, blah, blah, blah. Like, we don't care. We'll talk about anything, really. That's just that's our basis, like how we met. So I guess that's how we sort of...
We really met over... We could talk about how we met.
Yeah. So we met night duty. So myself, Laura, and Penny, we met, I think we'd done about 3 or 4 night shifts in a row. And we all had been rostered at special care nursery. And by like the 3rd night, we were like, oh my God, let's have nachos at work. I mean, we do work. Like And
but you get hungry.
Yeah.
And especially in special care nursery, there'll be lulls.
There'll be big gaps. Yeah.
Where you're not actually doing much except monitoring and
if you've got nice babies who sleep, then you do have those gaps. I mean, if you've got those babies who are very unsettled, you are kind of just toting a baby around all night.
Yeah.
But I think we all had very nice babies who just worked for their feeds and then went to sleep. So we had some good bonding time and that's really how we ended up.
Yeah. And I think also a lot of why we've stayed friends is because we seem to be forming a group of, I want to call us misfits. I don't think we're misfits, but I want to call us misfits.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, we're not like your popular girls. 100% I was not popular girl.
I think I'm well liked, but I'm not
But you're not like the favourite person.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're kind of those people that people don't hate. They like, maybe a little bit ambivalent. I don't know.
I think I've been told that some of the grads have said that they're scared of me. But I don't think I'm scared.
I never scary.
I don't think I'm scared.
And I don't think that's something she wants. I don't think that's something you want to put out there.
No. I'm like, really? And then I open my mouth and I actually start talking.
I feel it's like, so my first time round at uni, so many girls I met there who I'm really good friends now with, but they were like, oh my God, when I met you, I thought you were a complete bitch. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm so nice.
I think when you're working as a midwife and then you get students and you have a student with you, you could be having like a really bad day or you have a really heavy load and you're trying hard enough just to manage your own load. And if you're not experienced enough and then you have a student, it sort of adds to the load. But at the same time, I try to remember, well, I was that student once and I added to the load. So
I feel like I'm one of those people who loves having students with them. I love it.
It depends.
But as someone who generally in the hospital, I worked permanent nights. So it was very rare, unless I was on a birth suite rotation, that I got students.
Yeah.
So the hospital we were at, or I used to work at, they didn't really, you'd have students overnight in birth suite, but that was it. And I know as a student, I did night shift on everywhere, like all places.
I did night shift in birth suite on wards.
Yeah, I did night shift in birth suite, but I also did like night shift on wards and stuff like that. And I think it's really important as a student that you do night shift because this is so much shift work and there's not always the option to opt out of it, like in your first grad year.
Yeah.
A lot of times you can find ways to work around, but if you are just working in hospital, most hospitals will have that you have to do a certain amount of night shift.
And I think it's important to remember, like, as what we are now, I'm like, what, my 6th year or 5th year out? I can't really remember.
And 4th year out, which actually seems very small when I think about it. I'm like, oh God, 4 years. And I'm definitely, I wouldn't say, oh, I'm super senior. And I, like, at all. There's definitely people, and I'll be like, yeah, senior. And I'll be like, middle. Like, that's how I
Yeah, I feel middle. But I also...
Like, I feel confident in what I'm doing, but I'm quite happy to go. If I'm not confident, I'm quite happy to go and say and be like, what's going on here?
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Yeah.
And I think for students, I always try to remember what it was like being a student. I always rocked up to a shift. I'm like scared of what midwife I'm going to get. Like, are they going to be okay with me?
Yes.
Are they going to teach me something? Am I going to be annoying? Like,
so I think we're doing a whole episode on this, but I do remember like one time I went to this place and they were like, okay, so you're with this nurse. And I was like, okay. And I walked up and I was like, hi, I'm kind of your student today. And she was just like, no. And I was like, sorry, no, I don't have time. Go away. It's like literally what she said to me. And I was like, okay. And so I went back to
what did you do?
I went back to the nurse in charge and I said, oh, sorry. She said she doesn't have time. She can't work with me. And the nurse in charge was like, well, that's who you're allocated to. And I was like, okay. So I went back to this nurse who had just like literally said, no, go away. And I was like, oh, sorry, I'm allocated to you. And she was like, no, I'm too busy. And just walked off. And I was like,
what do I do now?
So awkward. And I was like, okay, I've really gone to the nurse.
So cool.
And I just stood there and then another student was on the same placement as me and she was like, Carly, what are you doing? Because I was just like, I don't do. And I told her and she was like, oh, my nurse is really nice. Come and hang in the back. So, but it was weird. So I just had to sort of follow this other nurse around. And I just was like, and then afterwards, of course, like at the time I was really like, I don't know what to do. And even as like a growing up person, I didn't feel I could assert myself. And like I felt I went back to being like a little girl. And I was like,
And I think that's how we sometimes make students feel like. My very first birth suite placement, the midwife allocated to me did not look happy at all that she was given a very, very junior student. Like, she was not happy and she made it very, very obvious.
I never get it.
She's like, I really, really don't have time for this. And I was like, well,
but that's the thing. Like,
I don't have time for this either, but I'm here.
If you're a student and you don't have time, like, okay, if you're so busy, that's why you have a student. The student's here to learn. Let them take, okay, you don't want to have to sit for 15 minutes popping contractions. Great, you've got a student.
To do it.
You know how many times as a student I sat for hours just popping contractions or holding the CTG belt on.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, the first midwife that I was put with in birth suite, did I tell you the story
I
about
don't think so.
her?
No.
Halfway through the shift, like she's not very friendly. And I told myself, you know what? This is just a personality difference. I'm just going to do whatever I can to get through my shift. I'm not going to hold it against her. I was like, get a thick skin, grow a thick skin. Like, you're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
You're a mature age student, Laura. You can do this. And then I'm sitting there and I'm looking at her and I'm like, God damn, I know her. Turns out she was the midwife in my first birth. Was my first child. And then I'm looking at her and I'm looking at her and I'm looking at her name and I'm like, oh.
Did you tell her?
Well, I think she figured it out.
Yeah.
Because I went to the nurse in charge and I was like, look, I think there's a conflict of interest. Like, I tried to go from that angle. And when I told her, and the nurse in charge was like, I'm sorry, like you 4 hours left of your shift. You just deal with it. And I was like, okay. And the midwife was basically like, what's wrong? And I said, oh, nothing. I just thought I knew you from somewhere. And I think she was sort of looking at me and we're looking at each other. And I think she realized we never actually talked about it.
Yeah.
But one thing I remember is not liking her in labor. And I think that's why. But I couldn't believe it. I was like, out of all these midwives, this is the one that's been given to me to learn from. But in saying that, I think that's a really good lesson because you don't always like your midwife.
No, you don't. And you also don't always like the co-workers, but I think you still have to. No, you
That's
don't.
a whole other podcast.
But I mean, it's like you're never going to, no matter what job you're in or life or family, whatever, you're never going to like everyone. And that's just how it is. People's personalities are going to clash. And you still have to be professional and you still have to get a job done. And, you know, you can't be there like sniping. Is that a word?
Sniping?
Like it's, when you're at like how, unprofessional does that look if your two midwives are having a little bitch in the corner at each other and you're this woman there.
It does happen. And I think that's one of the really good reasons for podcasts like this is to address some of those issues, which we can address.
Yeah.
Of course, at some point. But really to get some ideas as well from our listeners. There's something you particularly want to talk about in the arena, even if it's something as random as relationships outside of midwifery.
Yeah, anything, like any questions you have for us. So we'll also have an Instagram, which is Head on View Podcast.
Oh, okay. Yes, Head on View Podcast. So we're really good at promoting ourselves, as you can say.
Feel free to message us, leave a comment on there. And and obviously if you like us, follow us, subscribe, whatever you do, download us on Spotify.
Listen to us. Don't listen to us.
Whatever other channels.
But definitely hit us up for anything you want to talk about because there's always something random that, bothers someone.
Exactly.
And it's never occurred to us to talk about it before.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of things like that.
Don't be mean. And I mean, if you want to be mean, like, I guess go for it. We've got pretty thick skins.
Yeah. Look, you can be mean. I don't fucking care. Like, I don't.
Constructive criticism, we'll take it as.
Look, and if you don't like me swearing, then go listen to another podcast because I will swear and I'm not
Phil
going
actually hasn't sweared once in this series.
Yes, I have.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. I just swore.
You're always like, I swear so much. And I'm like, do you? Like, yeah.
Well, I try not to at work just because it's sort of unprofessional. But I've been told at work that I do swear a lot by a couple of people.
I grew up in the council estates of England. I clearly don't notice this in conversation.
I grew up in like the southwest of America, and I don't know, like I don't think I do, but maybe around certain people I feel more comfortable.
That just comes out.
But parents and stuff. But unless they're like sweary,
you
sort of try to connect with them.
Situation calls for it.
Yeah. So
I think that's kind of us wrapping it up.
Yeah,
have you liked the episode? Now, I think we're going to try and do like weekly and drop on one certain day, which is so organised. We haven't decided yet.
If we can get all three of us,
that would be great. But we are going to try and put this out weekly. Obviously, it won't always happen like that, but we'll try our best. So
definitely
enjoy it. Tune in next week and We will keep our Insta updated with the episode and
Yes.
the link to find us.
And DM us if you want to talk about anything in particular, and we'll do our best.
That's out. Peace out. Next time,
Bye.
bitches.
And be sure to tune in next time for more laughs, thrills, and real stories from real midwives on Head On View.
I didn't know it was still recording.